I'm just a Bill. Yes, I'm only a Bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. How's everybody doing this morning on this lovely Valentine Day? Um, Hopefully, you have someone to love. If not, then love yourself.
Remember to buy
So,
something. If you got a wife, significant other, remember to buy something. Don't take no, it's okay
yep.
for an answer. It's a bad move.
So, joining me is a man who's smarter than a classroom full of grade schoolers, Mr. PNW Woods. How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's excited.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad that you can make it. And then joining me from a secure location somewhere in the wilds of Washington State, Mr. Burt Reynolds.
Thank you for the invite.
Oh, no problem. Everybody loves your voice, so it's good to have you here. Brings the ladies.
Oh, good.
So I wanted to talk about, kind of start out uh, with all the stuff lately, all the bills and whatnot, kind of what we talked about last time. And right now, it seems like every time somebody brings up a bill, they don't just say, hey, this is something that's coming up. They're all screaming, hey, you know, be worried. When half the time, you just need to be aware of it. You don't, stuff that you don't need to scream about. It's just to let people know. So in the description for this, hopefully it worked out because I'm still learning this, and that's why there were two scheduled, because I barely know what I'm doing. And there's links to everybody's state, all 50 states, um, and it'll get you in the ballpark where you can look up your bills. And each state is a little bit different. Some are more sophisticated websites. Some are basically spreadsheets. But so you can go on, find your state, and it'll get you to. I think I put mostly the. It can either be a House bill or a Senate bill, and I put all the links are to one side or not. But if you get there, you can get to the other one. So if there's a bill that you hear about, you can look up HB, 707 or whatever. Go in and find it, and then read for yourself what it says. So and not just listen to somebody screaming at you that something's going on.
Yeah,
You
that's
can,
important.
and like I said, each website is a little bit different. So some are a little easier to navigate than others. But if it's something that you're concerned about, it won't take you very long to look it up. And then also, on most of the sites that I found, when there's a bill that's coming up, it's in committee or whatnot, you can comment on the bill, and that's something that I think is important. For Washington, our mag limit bill, I forget the number of it, but that's something that the committee, they mentioned that they got a lot of feedback about that bill, and so they changed it from a 10 mag limit to a 17 or 10 round mag to a 17 round limit to try and get it to pass. And I think there were a lot of people that mentioned that the Ninth Circuit Court struck down California's 10 round limit, because they mentioned that also, where um, they're trying to find, basically the acceptable infringement that they can pass.
Yeah,
So,
because they can't do the argument that it's a high cap if that's the new standard.
well, that's true. And to me, that also basically said that it's an arbitrary number. If
Yep.
they're going willing to go from 10, which somebody felt was critical, that you cannot have more than 10, and then when they got a lot of backlash, they changed it to 17. Well, why is 17 good now when 10 was good? They're just made up numbers. They're trying to find numbers that make people feel good. It's not really based on anything other than, wanting to pass this bad bill.
Yeah. They just want to say they did something.
Basically, that's what I've heard from people who have gone up and talked to the state senators and whatnot. They'll say they know this doesn't work, but that's what their constituents wants, or it's something they have to do basically to get along, so they don't get shut out by the other senators.
You know what I think? I think we should pass a bill that has a mag minimum. So you have to have more than 10 rounds in your gun. I'd do that.
Well, then what about the 1911 single stacks?
Got to get the 2011 double stack.
I don't know if that would work, but it's a nice idea.
When we get into later talking about CLEC, one of the articles I picked out was whether mass murderers actually use high-capacity magazines or not. And the answer is no, but we'll talk about that later in the show.
Yeah, that's I happened to come across a YouTube video where somebody did a PSA, and they hired actors to come in and then read these lines, and basically they were reading statistics that showed all these things that you hear, that the anti-gun people will say aren't true. And then it was just interesting to watch the actors they hired would be reading through, and they'd get through the fact, and then they kind of stumble and go, oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of important to participate. The more people that get involved, the more serious they understand we are. Because if you only get a handful of people that respond or comment, they're not going to take us serious. But if we can get 1,000 people, 2,000 people, then that's enough voices where you start getting heard, and it's harder to ignore.
And also on the state level, you don't need hundreds of thousands of people. You need a couple thousand people, because some of those representatives on the state level, they didn't win by that many.
Yep.
So if they marginalize 5,000 people in their area, then that's because it's smaller. We can make a bigger effect with just a few of us. Not that we ever want a few of us, but just the sheer numbers of it. What do we learn from the bump stock thing? Or not the bump stock thing, the technical brace thing. Like, we crushed that. And if we could just keep doing that on the state level, we could make a huge change.
I think so. And it's, we have to make the effort. And going to, looking up the bill, leaving a comment takes 5 minutes, especially once you understand the process and know where you need to go on the websites and whatnot. So it's not a lot of effort for something that's, really important. It's your right. It's your Second Amendment right. And it gets ignored because people don't stand up for it.
Do we want to show them how easy it is and pick something from Washington, and you could screen share and show us how to do it?
Well, no.
Okay.
It is that easy. Just getting it on the screen for me right now will be the hard part, because I'm still figuring all this out. I'm only semi-prepared. Yeah, and I'm going to be honest here. The rallies and stuff I think are important and need to happen, but they're not effective because not enough people show up. And the last one I went to was before COVID, at our capital here in Olympia, and there were more people than I expected, which was really nice. But it's not, not as many people as that show up for any other rally that goes on, and that's unfortunate. And I'm not trying to shame everybody, because there's, not everybody can go. I understand that, but the people that can go need to go. Need to stand up and let your voice be heard.
Yeah, they make it pretty difficult when they schedule it at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand doing the weekday ones, but
Isn't that because they're doing something inside the house that is that particular day? Is it correlated to that day?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, you're just not going to get a lot of people on a weekday.
I think commenting is going to make a bigger difference than that. As much as inspiring as rallies are, I'm inspired by there, and that's why I go, because I just like being around other people that are two-way people.
Yeah.
So I always try to look at it as a positive. Look at all these people, as opposed to there's not enough people, maybe.
Yeah, it's, I don't want to get down on it, because I don't want to discourage other people from going by saying, it's not going to work or anything. I think they need to happen. I just think more people need to go.
I guess what I'm saying is that for me, the rallies are reminding us that there's other people that are on our side. I don't think it really does a lot to the legislators, but it does for us,
I agree. And then, like you're saying, with the commenting, that's what it caught me by surprise when I watched, because for Washington, we have, the state has their own channel, and they video sessions and stuff. And so when I watched it, they commented on, they mentioned people, how many people commented and basically how it changed what they were doing. So it did have an effect. You can have an effect. So I'll come down from my soapbox. And
so the 17 round limit, is that the worst thing they're trying to pass right now in Washington?
Well,
because that's the only one I hear about.
There were some other ones, and I can't think of them right now. I wish I would have written it down or been prepared. Because I came across some other stuff where it listed a companion bill. And then, I clicked on the companion bill and went and looked, and it was, more anti-gun garbage. So I just left comments. And when you leave a comment, it doesn't have to be big, long rant or anything, and preferably no profanities. But, on some of them, if I wasn't sure what to say, I just put, I oppose this bill.
Yeah, I've heard if you curse in your comment, they don't even read it.
I can believe it. And then, the 10-round limit, I knew, since I knew about the Ninth Circuit, I mentioned that too, and there must have been a lot of people that mentioned that because they're trying to get around it.
Has anybody heard of a new effort to being 1639? It was an initiative to get that repealed again. I remember we all, grabbed those ballot signatures thing, got everybody on God's green earth we knew, and Sporting Systems did such a good job of printing all those. Anybody heard about any rally to get that going again?
I haven't. I think everybody's waiting for it to get to the Supreme Court. Is kind of everything that I hear. That's what everybody talks about.
That's what I've been hearing.
Fighting it in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, because there's myriad of ways that bill is just outlandishly not okay.
Yeah, it should have never even been on the ballot.
No.
But
I mean, yelling at safe schools is a problem.
well, that and basically piggybacking it with the tax on food, and then doing a sleight of hand switch.
Right.
So everybody thinks they're signing for, to stop taxes on food, but they're actually signing up for 1639.
Right.
So
Yeah, the print was so small you couldn't even read what you were signing.
yeah, make sure you read what you sign. Always read what you sign, just in general. Know what you're signing. Mr. Robert Reynolds, you wanted to go over the CMP a little more and
I did.
the process.
So I mentioned it on our other, I guess, episode or other stream.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the list in front of me of all the requirements, but it's pretty easy. There's basically 5 things you need. So you need to be basically over 21 unless you live in a free state. But so you need to give them proof of citizenship. So that'd be like your birth certificate or your enhanced driver's license or your passport. Proof of age. That's usually the same as your passport or your driver's license. Then you need to join a club for a CMP affiliated organization. It's $25. You sign up online, or if you were in the U.S. military, that bypasses it. And then you need to have a marksmanship or other firearms related activity. And basically that's like a concealed carry license, a CNR license, being in the military, being a ex-law enforcement. It just shows that you know what you're doing with a gun, or you at least should know what you're doing. And,
So let me back you up just a minute or just a bit. And what's the benefit of the CMP to start off?
Basically, they're selling M1 Garands or Garand and 1911s to civilians, and their goal is to encourage marksmanship activities in the U.S. And they basically get a military surplus from the Army, and they sell them off basically at cost. They're a non-profit. So, like, you can get a M1 Garand for $650, free shipping, no tax.
I'm assuming that still has to be sent to an FFL then?
It
No.
can be shipped right to your house.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I'm excited. I also didn't know the CCW helps you out. I thought you had to be like part of a gun club or something.
No,
So tell me more.
the problem is you live in Washington State.
Oh,
And
so
we have
we're-
1639. So yeah, like I said, if you live in a free state, it's a lot easier. So in your case, if you don't have a CNR license, you would have to have it shipped to a gun dealer.
which isn't, it's still tyranny, but isn't the most terrible tyranny, I guess.
Yeah, but getting shipped to your house is pretty cool.
Oh, I imagine so.
So CNR license, those are super easy to get. They're $30 for 3 years. You don't have to give them fingerprints. It doesn't even give them access to your house. They still have to have a warrant to search your house, even though you have a quote unquote FFL license. But all they can do is see your firearm book. They can request to look at all your logs.
And 1639 didn't block the CNR licenses?
Nope. It's because it's a federal firearms license. So theoretically, you should be allowed to own a gun. So they did put that into the law that if you do have that, that's a way to bypass it for guns that are over 50 years old.
I like all the words you're using here. I'm going to have to get me one of them.
So the gun had to be made 50 years before the date you're buying it. It's not like the model. So you couldn't go buy a brand new 1911. It have to be a 1911 that was built in February 14th, 1971 or before. So going back to the requirements, and then all you got to do is be eligible to purchase a firearm. That's pretty important. And you fill out the form. It's kind of like a 4473, but it's a lot easier. And then you get it notarized. So you just go down to your local bank, get them to notarize it. You send it into the CMP with your order form, tell them what you want, and they'll bill your credit card or debit or check or money order, and they'll send you out a gun.
How long does the process take?
Well, usually it's pretty fast, but because of COVID, it's backed up their entire process. It's usually safe to say it's going to at least take 2 months from when they get your order form.
Sorry, did I cut you off in the process?
No,
Through the process? Oh, okay. What else do they have? Is it just guns or?
oh yeah, they also have ammo, which is pretty cool in 2021. And they have they don't have every caliber, but they have the main ones. It's like if you wanted some 308 or some 223 or 10 millimeter, they have ammo. You go to their e-store. It's the same process as getting a gun. You fill out their form, send it in, and free shipping, no tax. And they'll ship it right to your house.
Once again, I like all the words you're using here.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You don't really hear people talking about it much. People think the CMP's for like, you take your 12-year-old nephew and take him to the range at the CMP and they'll teach him how to shoot a 22. But yeah, they used to have M1 carbines, 1917 Enfields, 1903 Springfields. They used to have Krags, and they would just sell these off. And that's how they what's the word I'm looking for? Fund running their ranges.
So it has the ammo crunch and the affected them the same way as it has the the gun stores and stuff, or are they a little bit insulated on for the guns and ammo?
Because it's a closed process. Like you can't just go onto their website and buy something. You have to go through this whole process of turning in an application. It makes it people aren't just ordering ammo from them and then reselling it, like is what's going on right now. Like people going to Walmart in the morning, getting all the 9mm, and then selling it on Arms List. So they are running out of ammo in certain areas. Like they had 38 Special, and now I don't see it anymore. But for the most part, they're fully stocked. If you're willing to go through this whole process, I'm pretty sure by the time you get it done, they'll have ammo for you.
When you get a chance, why don't you drop a link out in the chat?
To the CMP?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was just going to ask, is there a website or something I can go to?
The CMP.org.
Excellent.
And I will drop a link. And X Adam 1 is asking, why would a service condition M1 be 750, but the field grade is 850? So the field grade is 850 because it's a Winchester. And so it, just because of the name, and there's less of them, it's worth more, even though the gun is in worse condition. So you can get a Springfield service grade. So, I didn't explain this, but they have different grades of rifles. It starts at the bottom with rack, then field, then service, and then special. And rack is the worst ones they have that still function. And so Springfield produced the most M1 rifles in the wars. So there's millions of them. And so that's why you can get the good gun for less money than the worst gun, because it's not as rare. Doesn't really make sense to me. I would never buy the worst gun for more money unless you're a really big Winchester fan. But yeah, I would definitely go with the get a Springfield service grade for $750. Can't go wrong there.
So how long? I'm not sure if it was part of Wood's question. The process for signing up. How long does that take?
Well, you could do it in a day. You just fill out all the forms. There would be a slight delay, and you have to sign up for one of their affiliate clubs, and that won't happen immediately. So you got to sign up for that, and then wait for the card to come in the mail. So maybe 4 days for that to show up. 4 or 5 days. Yeah.
But overall, it sounds like, especially if you like Garands and the surplus stuff, it's a place to look. And if you're looking for ammo, definitely a place to check out.
Yeah, just for the ammo is worth it. But yeah, if you've ever wanted to buy an M1 Garand, they're not making anymore, and they're running out, and they're only going to go up in value. I'm not saying buy them to sell them, but I'd rather get one for $750 now than have to pay $3,000 10 years from now.
Definitely, and it's cheaper than if you find it in your local gun shop.
Oh yeah,
But
there's people that do that. They buy guns from the CMP and then flip them, and supposedly they'll blacklist you from the CMP, and then you won't be able to order from them anymore.
wow.
So I would not suggest doing that, because every gun you order from the CMP comes with a certificate of authenticity, and it shows who they sold the gun to on that certificate. So my gun has my name associated with it. They knew who they sold that gun to, and when I try to sell it, they're going to want that certificate, so they know that I am giving them a service grade.
Yeah, the last one I saw in the shop that I go to was, I think, 1100, and I don't know the grades. I couldn't tell you one grade from the other by looking at it.
Yeah.
But so it's quite a bit of difference between 750, 850, and 1100. So
Oh yeah. And depending on what you get, because it's kind of luck of the draw, because you can kind of request, like, I'd like a World War II Garand, or I want one from Korean War, but they don't have to do that. They just give you any one. The next one that's ready is the one that goes to you, and that can either give you a bad gun or a really sweet one. Like, you might get one that was built in the 30s, just randomly. And that gun's going to be worth thousands of dollars. But they'll never be worth less than what you paid for them. They'll always be worth more.
As long as you don't set them on fire, yes.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
agree with that.
Well, actually, that might be worth more. You could say it got flamethrower during World War II or Korea.
So is there more you wanted to cover with that, or was that?
Is there a fee for joining the CMP?
That is free. The only fee is getting it notarized. You can either pay for that, or if you have a bank account, usually your bank gives you a free notary service. So that
Right.
should be free. The main fee is from joining the club, and it's $25. So no big deal.
Is that club an actual club that meets up, or is it a?
No, it's they send out quarterly magazines, and they do they have a website, and they got a YouTube channel, and they put together documentaries on M1 Garens. It's pretty cool stuff. And the one I'm talking about specifically is called the Garand Collectors Association.
So, need to do a drawing because I hit 250, and to kind of thank everybody, do a drawing for a box full of stuff.
And I'd like to take myself out of the drawing. So if one of us wins, well, I just took Woods out too, but I guess you can win Woods if you want.
Yeah, I'm greedy. I want stuff. Sure. I don't know. I don't really care that much.
So, well, shoot. Not sure if I had this set up earlier, and I'm not sure if the right link is in here.
We could chit chat while you find it.
Yeah, go ahead and chit chat and give me just a second.
Okay,
What
Woods,
one?
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Would you rather have a 5-inch 1911 in 10 millimeter or a 3-inch 357 Magnum?
I'm gonna go 3-inch 337 Magnum because that's what I carry.
Okay. That was a short conversation.
Not hating on the 10 millimeter. I'm like, I wouldn't say heck no. I don't like that gun. No, but carrying large. Been carrying since what I'm gonna say 92, and every time I carry a big heavy gun, I tend to regret it over time. Not that I
Yeah.
won't, but I tend up going back to my 3-inch 357, my little SP 101. I've carried it forever and ever and ever.
Oh, nice.
I've had it for a long, long time, and it's a quality. Like by all means, buy quality guns because I'll give that gun to my grandkids. You know, I was saddened to hear that because I'm big on. I've got a lot of 38 specials. It's just everybody's got their little caliber that they like. Do I understand there's better calibers and more modern calibers and polymers and all that? Sure, but I'm a big fan of 38 special. It's super American, so I was sad to hear they don't have any 38 specials.
Oh, yeah, the CMP.
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll come back in stock,
right.
but I don't know if it's a priority
Oh, probably not.
because
Do they have it? Do they just have 1911s and M1s? Do they have any other guns still? You said that you used to have other guns. Do they have any guns like that now?
not for sale online. They do have them in the store. So if you live close to one of these stores, I think it's in is it Ohio and Alabama?
That sounds like a bit of a drive for us here in Washington.
Yeah, I'm not going down there. That's a lot of gas money.
But I'm not against it. I'm not saying I wouldn't because, being a teacher, I do have this thing called July where I do whatever I want.
Nice.
Apparently, people work in July. It sounds terrible to me.
Oh yeah. The reason I was asking about the 1911 and the 357 Magnum, I got a 586 L comp, and I got a Colt XSE 1911,
Right.
and the 1911 is only a half inch longer,
Oh, really? Yeah.
and I got an aluminum frame, so they're not that much different in weight.
Okay, I got loaded up here, and it's all ready to go, and it'll run through everybody that commented, and we'll see who comes up. Guns and Barbecue, of course. He
Of course he
seems
wins.
he's
He
a
wins
very
everything.
lucky man.
He wins everything. It's
He wins a
rigged.
lot. But so I'll get a hold of Guns Barbecue if he's still out there, and I'll shovel a bunch of stuff in a box and mail it off to you as a thank you for subscribing, because I appreciate everybody that subscribes. I honestly didn't ever think I would hit 250, but
Well,
so
congratulations, man.
thank you. I just wanted to give back a little bit.
You're up to 270, 261 now. You'll be at
Holy
300 in no time.
I know Barbecue pretty well, and I'm just going to say for him, he doesn't really want any patches, so you don't give him any patches. He doesn't like those at all.
Well, probably anything I give him, he'll already have. But one day, should I ever hit 500 in the way, way away future, I'll give away one of my Continental coins.
Wow.
If you saw the movie John Wick, this one's silver because I can't afford the gold ones. But I'll give away one of mine to somebody.
Nice.
Very generous. Where do you get something like that?
I can't remember if I got it from Amex or I ordered it online. Or I can't remember the other site right now that I've ordered stuff off of. And then now and again I go down. There's a local coin shop. I'll go see what they got. So I picked up, like some of the Star Wars ones and stuff like that. Just, I don't stack silver. I'm not, keeping it for when the world, collapses. Just stuff that I think is pretty. So I'll pick something up.
Yeah, right now the good investment was ammo.
Yeah. So, since in the chat tonight, X Adam has been the most vocal. If he's still listening, I will give him either a Barxa scope, or if he wants a Monstrum scope mount, it's one of the cantilevered. It's a 1-inch.
Those are nice.
The Barks, it's kind of a cheap one. I got it to mess with. It's got a lighted reticle. So it's nothing real special. And then it'll need to be leveled because I've had the rings off it. So they're not in line quite. But so just let me know which one you want, X Adam. And then I'm going to bug you until you tell me.
Yeah, he said he'd take the scope.
Yep.
All right. I'll get it in the mail. Hopefully this week. I'll get it sent out to you. That's what if you show up and you comment, hey, things can happen. I know it's a god awful early time for anybody to be here, but
Yeah, it's either really early or really late.
so Woods, there was something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Well, a lot of us that follow G Webs, he was reading this book. Sorry, that's the top of my head. It's my ugly mug. Good luck with that. It's
You look
called
like your
Artists by
pet.
Gary Kleck. Remember when G was reading chapters of this?
Yeah.
And so I looked up Gary Kleck, and I had heard of Gary Kleck before in researching about in John Lott, because I'm enough of an academic where if you tell me something, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna believe you, and then I'm gonna go look up and see what it says and see if your research methods actually match what you're saying, because I hear correlational data and causal data thrown around like terms that are the same thing, and they're not. So if you want to make a cause and effect statement, you have to have the right kind of data. And so I looked up Gary Kleck, and boy, that guy's been researching since the 70s. Originally, he's a criminologist. Wasn't really that into guns to start with. He just wanted to know what the actual numbers were. And the one that he's been trying to look up is and trying to find out is how many defensive gun uses are in the United States per year. And in 1995, he did a study, and he didn't like the national survey that was done by the government. He did his own, and there's a little controversy on it because, of course, the other side has to say we don't like your methods. At the end of the day, he came up with a number of 2.4 million defensive gun uses in 1993, and that was the year that he used it. So we can extrapolate that there's probably a lot every year. The other side kind of brought up the idea that, well, if there was that many, how come there's only 30,000 reports of defensive gun use in police reports? And so I thought that was intriguing because it would seem that a lot of times, you're out in the dark, in the dead of night, and the bad guy comes, and 99% of defensive gun use is just the presence of a gun makes it safer for the person carrying the gun. No shots are fired. It's very rare to everybody shoot anything. Hardly anybody ever actually shoots a bad guy in any way, shape, or form. Just the statistics are very, very, very small that ever happens. But
yeah, that's going to be a hard number to get. Right. The ones that aren't reported. I had in high school, my friend's mother, she worked in Seattle, and she had a guy follow her to her car, and she had a nickel-plated 38. She pulled out the 38, and he turned around and left. And she didn't report it because she wasn't hurt. It stopped, and she got home safe. And so that's not going to show up in a statistic.
That's what Gary Kleck was saying, is that more often than not, there's a bad guy, the person runs off. Now the citizen is sitting there going, well, I'm going to call the cops, and the cops are going to come and hassle me about my gun when there's no bad guy here anymore. They're gone.
Yep.
So most people are just going to get in their car and drive home.
Well, also in Olympia, someone I work with told me their friend, they came out of some event, and two guys tried to mug them, and he had a concealed weapon. And when he drew his weapon, they ran off. He called the cops, and the cops told him, well, there's nothing we can do about it. So I don't even know if there's a report on that.
Right. Let me see if I can find it. Well, we could talk about how research really works if you wanted to for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to bore everybody, but I think it's probably valuable. Do you mind if I screen share real quick?
No, go ahead.
Come on. Share screen. Well, it's not working right, of course. Anyway, I canceled it. Let's try it one more time. It might be because I'm on a work computer and it wants me to use Microsoft Teams is what I use on a regular basis, so I don't know if this will work. See. Okay, I got it now. I figured out what to do. And Can y'all see my screen? Should say armed resistance to crime.
Yep.
Yeah, I pulled it up.
Okay. So Gary Kleck is amazing. Any good researcher is going to start with the introduction, and he's going to talk about crime victims used to be ignored by criminologists. And I'm not going to read all that for you. Basically saying that the data out there is kind of junk. Because remember, this is 1995 that he wrote this. Victim resistance right here in the middle can be passive or verbal, but much of it is active and forceful. Potentially, the consequences form the forceful resistance of armed resistance, especially resistances with a gun. Okay, so keep going down. This is where this National Crime Victimation Survey is the one that he doesn't like, and he was saying that says that there's only about 68,000 defensive gun uses in connection with assaults and robberies, and about 80,000 or 82,000 if you add in household gun burglaries. But later, Kleck is saying that probably more like 2.6 million in the survey that he did, and that's going to get down here into his methods. And he talks about these gun surveys. There was at least 13 that he reviewed in this study. He goes into like how good some are better than others. And then where is it? I'm going to find it. Hard survey implied the minimum of about 640,000 annual defensive gun uses. DGU means defensive gun use. Up to 700,000, so that was a little closer. And then he does his own self-defense, and that's where it says methods right there. And he talks about he surveyed 5,000 people in a bunch of different places. And this is where you've heard people say the 2.4 million gun uses. I've heard a bunch of people say it. This is the actual study that comes from.
So does it say in there how he chose who he surveyed, or was it just an open survey?
You can get into that nitty gritty, sure. Because any good researcher is going to tell you exactly what they did, and he'll even tell you the limitations of the survey. He'll tell you how his survey sucks, and how other people, and the idea is other people need to research and fill in that hole. Let me go back. We consulted North America's most experienced experts on gun-related surveys. You got these guys to do it right at the top of the screen there. And a professional polling firm, Research Network of Tallahassee, Florida, carried out the sampling and interviewing. And I do believe that is 48 independent samples of residential telephone numbers were drawn, one from each of the lower 48 states, providing 48 independent, albeit often small, state samples. Does that make sense?
So kind of cold calling.
Yeah, cold calling. So there, and he'll say later in the survey, part of the problems with surveys is you're only going to get the people that are home during the day, right?
Yeah.
So let me get down to, then he's got results, table 2. I don't want to bore everybody. I'm going to go right to whenever I know it's this kind of a researcher, one of the tricks I've learned over time is just go down to the conclusion and he'll tell you what he found. That if you think that they do solid surveys, and then I'll go back and read the rest of this boring part because these parts was really boring. Going, bear with me. Come on. Conclusion. If one committed to rejecting the seemingly overwhelming survey evidence of frequency of defensive gun use, one would speculate, albeit without empirical foundation whatsoever, that nearly all of the people reporting such experiences are simply making them up. We would feel this is implausible. In R, which means respondent, who had actually experienced a daily gun, I keep trying to say daily gun show, defensive gun use, would have no giftedly responding no with an answer when they're to our defensive gun use question, because no response is not followed by a further up question. So on the other hand, lying to a false yes would require a good deal more imagination or injury. So what they're saying there is if people wouldn't lie and say no, or wouldn't lie and say yes, which some people in other surveys had said is a problem because it's just going to have more questions. And it's be easier for them to lie on the no side of that. And let me get to the very bottom. Did I run out?
Is this guy still around?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and the policy implications and results are straightforward. The findings do not imply that anything, whether than moderate regulatory measures, such as background checks or purchasing permits, would be desirable. Regulatory measures which do not disarm large shares of the general population would not significantly reduce beneficial defensive uses of firearms by non-criminals. On the other hand, prohibitionist measures, whether aimed at all guns or any guns, are aimed at disarming criminals and non-criminal alike. They would therefore discourage and presumably decrease the frequency of defensive gun use among the non-criminal crime victims, because even the minimal effective gun bans would disarm at least some of the non-criminals. The same would be true of laws ban gun carrying. In sum, the measures that are effectively reduce the availability among non-criminal majority would reduce defensive gun uses and otherwise would be saved lives, preventing injuries, thwarting rape attempts, and driven off burglars that help. So basically, he's saying, if your gun laws are going to make it so bad guys are going to hurt more people.
Well, yeah, because they're bad guys and don't follow the law.
Right.
So
right, for sure,
whatever law you pass, they're not
going to follow.
Yeah.
Right. And then let me jump over to this one. This one's easier to understand because this is just this is Gary Kleck in 2020. So that first one was 1995. Remember, he starts in 1972. He's still going. Now, this is just a paper that he wrote. He presented it somewhere, so it's not peer reviewed, but it's still really good work. And there are about 58.9 million firearms magazines holding over 10 rounds in private possession in the United States, at least. And then he got that from his thing in 2006, which he cited right there at the bottom, where it says Kleck 2016. So, but this is 2020. But I thought it was very telling, considering what we're facing in Washington State, that people tell us that they need to ban these guns because, all the mass murderers are going to do all these bad things if they've got, enough rounds. And I wish he wouldn't use mass shooters. We definitely need to get all the people to say mass. In sum, mass murderers do not prefer to use large caliber magazines. This occurs with the analysis of details of how mass shootings are actually carried out, which indicates that large caliber magazines are neither necessary nor particularly helpful when wounding large numbers of victims. All U.S. mass murderers use multiple guns or multiple magazines and therefore can fire a large number of rounds without significant interruption, even if they possess only smaller magazines. Further, no mass murderer using semi-auto guns in the last 30 years are known to have been tackled by bystanders while reloading, as distinct from their guns jamming or magazines falling out to function, because that actually has happened. And reloading through times of 3 or 4 seconds do not inherently risk the time for victims to escape. So I will end my rant there. So whenever we hear these silly, we have to ban these magazines because bad guys can go into a place and shoot up a bunch of people, literally not true. His research shows that it's really not true. It doesn't work like that.
Well, and that's what, when those happen, it's normally a handgun.
Right.
Not an assault rifle.
Right.
And that's the narrative that to push the assault rifle ban is, mass murders or whatever, but that's not the weapon they use.
Yes, virtually. Even if the few cases they have used them, they shoot it until it has no more ammo and they switch to another weapon. Quite often.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just while you were going through some of the stuff, the other thing that I thought of is the thing that stops a mass murderer is the first gun that shows up on scene.
Right.
And, if it's either going to be a concealed carrier who's there, or it's going to be whenever the cops show up.
For sure.
That kind of falls in line with with the saying that you're your own first responder. You're your own first responder.
Yep.
But so that guy was named Gary Kleck. He's written a bunch of books. You don't have to be nerdy and go into the actual research. He'll go over it for you in the book. This one that me and G been reading is from 2001, but he's got a whole bunch that are a lot more modern. And highly suggest grabbing one of those books. You can get them on Amazon. I got this for like $10 because it's used.
It's got a lot of useful information in it.
Yeah, and what's nice about it is each chapter, like this one that I'm reading, each chapter he's got his footnotes. There'd be probably 15, 20 pages in a chapter, and then there's at least 5 pages of footnotes. And then there's the next chapter and 5 pages of footnotes. So this isn't a guy that just says weird stuff and doesn't back it up with facts. Like he'll kill you with the facts. He'll bury you in facts. And I'm like, that's the kind of thing that I think we as 2A advocates and activists, we need to start arming ourselves with information from guys like that, or John Lott, or even Don Cates, which is the other author of this book, but he's more of a lawyer than a researcher. But
yeah, and the footnotes are important to look at when you're looking into something and you want to find out. The footnotes will tell you, where they're getting their information, how, and then when they reference something and there's, I can't remember now. I can't think of what it was, but I was looking at something and they were getting their information from like salon.com,
no.
And there were other things that I looked up that were like that, where there's not a lot of fact there. It's opinion. So they're trying to state a fact based on an opinion.
Right. And just for a second, like both of those articles that I read you, well, not the second one, the first one, that's through a peer-reviewed journal. So he had to send that article to 10 other dudes that have PhDs who are supposed to rip it apart and find the holes in it before they're ever going to publish that. As opposed to like I hear people research says, and then they're like, where'd you get it? Like Newsweek, or I'm like, no, that's not research. Stop, please don't. But thanks for my soapbox.
Oh, no problem. It's good information. And when you're looking for a book, always look for the used ones on Amazon. You can usually find them for cheaper.
For sure.
I love
100%.
I love old books. I'm a bibliophile. So,
I have
was there
a question
any
for you?
Yeah,
Before
go
we
ahead.
take off, you own a 6.5 Grendel AR-15.
Yes, sir.
What length is the barrel?
I have an 18-inch barrel.
Okay. I want to show you something with screen share.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get this.
You could do it. Just hit the little share button. It's got a little square with a computer screen on the bottom.
Okay.
Excellent.
Check out these stats. This is with a 12-inch 6.5 Grendel. And it's beating the AK-47 full 16-inch basically at every single range.
Well,
Wow.
that's one thing I found out by watching YouTubes is there really isn't a huge difference in length when it comes to accuracy, and it will on pressures and stuff, just because the powder has longer time to burn. But overall, there's not a real huge difference, if a couple of inches. And this isn't, I haven't researched it heavily, so I can't give you numbers like you're doing for me. But so, if you're worried about a 16 versus an 18, your accuracy isn't going to be a lot different.
No.
And
Yeah, from what I understand, the main thing is as soon as your bullet drops below supersonic,
yeah,
that shock wave deflects your bullet. That's what causes your accuracy to go down. So if you can stay supersonic as long as possible, you're going to be more accurate, quote unquote.
Yeah, and then when you get in basically like hyper rounds where they're screaming,
Yeah.
then the wind will have less effect, less drop and all that. But I don't know all the facts on rifles. I have them, I enjoy them, but I couldn't. You know a lot more than I do about the rifles.
Well, let's just put it this way. I am definitely going to be building a 6.5 Grendel AR-15. And hopefully next month I'll have some more info. But
Sweet.
This is some really cool, this is an awesome round. And I wanted to thank you for introducing it to me.
No problem.
I fully blame you.
I built mine just because it was different. I wanted something a little bit different, and that's why I went with it.
Yeah, I was looking at a 7.62 by 39 AR-15. Then I saw this. I'm like, why would I do that? It's a worse gun.
I heard they run real dirty too.
Yep.
You were saying something with
problems.
I was going to agree with you on that. When you get into that kind of technical part of rifles, like I have rifles, I shoot rifles, I enjoy them, but I'm not a good enough shooter to where either one, like I can't make the Grendel be that much better than the AK because I'm not that great with the AK to start with. So
yeah,
but they're both very cool. I think the AK is cooler looking gun, but I'm sure the Grendel's a better gun.
And the cool thing is, I can still build AR-15 6.5 Grendel for less than $600.
Yeah.
Try to find an AK right now for less than 600.
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
But do your AKs and your Grendel do they argue when they're in the safe? That's the only thing I'd worry about. Like, do they talk?
I do not own any communist guns, so I do not have that problem.
Yeah, I can appreciate what the AK is and what it can do. I just don't. It doesn't interest me.
As a historical piece, I can see that.
Well, I'm a weirdo because I got into guns because I'm a super big duck hunter. So most of the guns I own are shotguns, and then I have a bunch of pistols, and then I've got a couple of rifles. But if I'm going to go shooting in the woods in the middle of nowhere, I'm probably going to blow up a bunch of stuff with a shotgun.
That's pretty fun.
I still have never shot a shotgun.
What? We need to fix that, Foss.
Do you own one?
No.
Oh, man.
I've thought about it. I've looked at them at the gun shop, and then it's like, something else will catch my eye, and then.
All right. Well, we'll have to pick it in the summer. We'll have to pick a day and meet up in Capitol Forest somewhere, and we'll shoot some shotguns.
I'm gonna have to pick this up the next chat.
Yeah,
you do not have a shotgun.
Yeah,
that's a huge gap.
Hey, I almost if the gun shop they stopped doing layaway because they're having so much trouble getting guns. I would have got an Amscore VR60. I would have put money down on it. Basically, looks like a AR 20 or 12 gauge. Just because it kind of caught my eye and I thought it was funky.
Well, that's our subject for next time because I definitely have opinions on magazine-fed shotguns. Because if it was such a great idea, why didn't Browning do that?
Yes, I've heard it, but we'll save that for next time.
Excellent. Well, this is super fun, guys.
I thank you for coming on. It makes it easier for me. So for if you guys have anything you want to plug or
more people, your subscribers should go find more subscribers. Like go tell their friends to subscribe. That's all I got.
I guess I'll shill for the CMP one last time.
Nice.
If I did a poor job explaining that, there's lots of YouTube videos out there.
You did great.
On how to do this.
I'm working on that tomorrow.
It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I'm going to figure that out. So I can be the test case because I'm like, oh, I need one of those now. It was that easy, and if I get an if I get that CNR license, I could get it sent to my house and I could get ammo sent to my house. I like every word you said, so don't feel like you did anything other than amazing.
Yeah, if you live in Washington and you don't like 1639, get a CNR license.
I'm in.
So you made a convert. So for everyone who has listened in, and everyone who will listen in the future, hopefully someone will listen in the future. I appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been fun, and MCK jumped in at the last minute. Just want to say hey. I see you there. So this will be a once a month deal, just for scheduling and whatnot. It's about what I can do, but just you have to bear with me too while I'm learning how to live stream. This time was a little better than last time. Next time will be better than this time. And everybody have a wonderful day.
Adios.